It was soul destroying really to see a patient or to hear a patient and many times saying after the restorations were put in, the final ones, that I preferred your prototypes, right? I preferred the shape of your prototypes. Yeah. And so it was that, yeah. So it was that predictability that I wanted to change. And digital, immediately I could see the benefits of doing this.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Digital Dentistry Decoded podcast. Dr. Ahmad Al-Hassiny here from iDD. Now, the theme seems to be smile design, cosmetic dentistry. Last episode, we spoke to an amazing cosmetic dentist in the US, Dr. Brian Harris. And this time, we're going to jump across the pond or the ocean and talk to another amazing guest who's been heavily involved in smile design. And this is Dr. Jameel Gardee. Jameel, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate the invitation.
My pleasure, my man. Now, Jameel is part of an amazing group of clinicians. They're called Avant Garde in the UK. These guys, you should just check them out on social media. They do the type of work that a lot of people want to do. They treat celebrities, soccer players, etc. It's quite amazing, and they have a really slick workflow. And I'm super excited about this because I reached out to these guys a few years ago, and it's been a big project in the making. And we've made this huge online course. It's called Aesthetic Smile Design Excellence. And it's basically, I would say, the most comprehensive cosmetic dentistry course available online. Over 40 chapters, 5 faculty. It's absolutely incredible. But we don't want to just talk about the course. Jameel, thank you again for joining me. I'd love to hear your story because you've been involved in smile design for a long time. You trained under Christian Coachman, who invented smile design. Tell us about your story, man. How did you get into all of this? How did dentistry work out for you from pretty much graduation till now?
So I'm very fortunate. I graduated from my hometown university in Scotland. It's called Glasgow University. And at that particular point, I knew that I really wanted to kind of further my studies afterwards. So I did the usual sort of like vocational training here in the UK. But after that, I was very fortunate to get a place in the US at Boston University, where I was a resident at the Goldman School of Dental Medicine in the postgraduate program there in Advanced Restorative, Operative, and Aesthetic Dentistry. And I spent some of the best years of my life over there and learned such a lot from those American dentists who had seen coming over and giving lectures, during university. And, when I just qualified, and just to go over there and train with them was absolutely fantastic. And, at that particular point, superb clinicians around, from David Hornbrook to Nick Davis to Marty Zais, Bill Dickerson from Las Vegas. So it was great just, picking up the information that they were sharing, seeing the incredible cases that they had. And then I'd actually got a place to teach there at Boston University, but I had to come back to Scotland. And probably that's one of the best things that's ever happened. Because I immediately came back and I sort of brought into a practice here in Glasgow, my hometown again. And, we've transformed that with a variety of clinicians into a really, fantastic, modern, aesthetic dentistry focused clinic. But we do implants, we do ortho-restorative workflows, we do restorative workflows, comprehensive dentistry, all based on, sound dental principles, from the masters. And I think this is my 31st year as a dentist. So I've seen quite a lot of things. The first, 15 years or so of my career was just treating sort of like, the usual cases, working in the NHS, seeing some private cases as well. But, my real passion was, restorative and aesthetic dentistry. That's what I trained in. And, we've just developed our practice, our clinic. And really it was, I'd always had in my mind the question that, is the digital world ready? At Boston University, we used to have a CEREC machine. It used to sit in the head of the program, Dan Nathanson's office. Nobody was really allowed to use it at that particular time. So I knew that digital dentistry was out there. I just didn't know it was available and things were working. And really the light bulb moment for me came when I decided to fly to Istanbul. Digital Smile Design and their team were doing the world tour back in 2014, 2015. And it really just, I was lucky to be at the right place at the right time. I'm pretty sure you know that Christian Coachman's a wonderful human being. He's an incredible educator. And along with Livio Ishinaga, Paolo Cano, Laurent Stumpf, just some of the super guys, super educators willing to share. I really understood that digital was here to stay. So since about 2014 now, 12 years, I've just really been focused on digital dentistry. And yeah, you're right. I still am a digital smile design instructor, or KOL. I've been past president of the Digital Dentistry Society here in the UK, the European Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry with Rui Falaccio, and doing some incredible things with some incredible people. And it's one thing doing it yourself. It's quite another thing getting other people to do it with you and to see the same things. And I was very fortunate to meet Robbie Hughes again during the Digital Smile Design World Tour. And, we're like-minded people. We practice in the same way. We have incredible synergy in the clinical workflows that we use. We have the same attitude to patient care, putting the patient first, and utilizing and leveraging technology to make everybody's lives easier, the dentist's lives easier, the patient's life easier, and using technology to give exceptional results, whether that's restorative, whether that's ortho-restorative or orthodontics or implants. We do everything. And although the program that we've developed with yourselves, Aesthetic Smile Design Excellence, is mainly focused around aesthetics and scalable, efficient workflows that really anybody can do. They just got to learn it and put their minds to it and practice it. It's something that's been a passion and something that I really believe in, because it's one thing to, as I said, to do it yourself or to lecture and talk about it, but it's quite another thing to get other people to do it and to get other people on this as well. And I'm a passionate advocate for digital dentistry. I have been now, as I said, for over a decade. It's something that's revolutionized my career, and been fortunate enough to see other people's careers being boosted by this and revitalized, and just a new lease of life in the way that we think about dentistry, that we deliver quality care to our patients. And so super happy, and obviously very impressed with all the stuff that you've done, Ahmed, and with the Institute of Digital Dentistry, really raising the game in getting the word out there and showing some incredible clinicians in your other courses that you have. So it was just a no-brainer to partner with you guys.
I appreciate it, man. And look, congratulations. That sounds like an incredible career, man. And God, it's like drinking from a fire hydrant. I don't know where to start with that one. There is so much to piece into that, because I agree with so much of what you said. I mean, digital has totally changed my career as well. And I'm similar to you. I've been in it about a decade now. And you said something really important, and it's getting the team on board, building a team. And this is the bane of any practice owner. It's one thing doing it yourself as an associate, but building a healthy and strong team that can do it as a practice owner, that is a whole different beast. And I love how in our course we touch on that a lot, but also principles of smile design. But before we get into, building a team, I really want to get into some principles, because you've been doing this a very long time. You would have seen it change. I mean, I got into digital smile design nowhere near as early as you, my friend. I got in when Coachman was kind of a household name, and he is a super lovely guy. And do you remember the days of doing it on a PowerPoint or a keynote, and he used to dish out the templates? That's when I got into it. And it's just incredible how much smile design has changed. And I totally agree. Digital has just revitalized dentistry, I feel. Everyone who's into it is excited. They're passionate. Everyone's having more fun than they've ever had before. But one thing is, let's get into cosmetic dentistry, because I want my listeners and all these people who are tuning into the podcast, which I love you guys for supporting us, by the way. I want them to get something genuinely useful out of this. One quick note. I would like to thank our sponsor, SprintRay, for supporting this episode of the iDD podcast, Digital Dentistry Decoded. SprintRay, as you guys all know, continues to lead innovation in digital dentistry, in particular with its 3D printing materials and equipment, helping dental professionals streamline workflows from design to same-day delivery or same-day production. Whether you're producing surgical guides, splints, dentures, or restorative applications, Sprint Race technology is no doubt making chairside dentistry faster and more predictable. We've all seen it. We appreciate their support of our podcast. Now back to the episode. Cosmetic dentistry is something a lot of people want to get into. A lot of undergrads see it as kind of the peak of dentistry. They see all the Michael Uppers and everything, and guys like you treating soccer players and famous people. But I mean, take away all of that. Was there anything in your journey, especially early on in your career, that were kind of like key pearls or, like key things that changed how you thought about cosmetic dentistry? Is there anything like that, or was it more of a evolution over time? I imagine there was different key points throughout your career, but was there any really major things that changed how you practice?
Well, I think things go back to learning in the States. And as I said, Boston University is a very classical university. It teaches you sound evidence-based dentistry, for whether it's the prosto program or the endo program or the implant program. Everything's based on literature reviews and the best way of doing things. So, I remember during that time, I think it was 1999 or the year 2000, I think the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry was coming to Boston to do their, the annual scientific congress. And I remember one of the lecturers at that particular point, he was saying that I don't really believe in cosmetic dentistry. Do you think that the prosto people don't do cosmetic dentistry? Of course we do cosmetic dentistry. We want our restorations to look excellent. So I think cosmetic dentistry is just, a name, something, that shows that we're interested to the patients, that this is what's important to them. Because at the end of the day, the language of the patient is aesthetics. They don't come for an implant placed exactly 3 millimeters below the CEJ of the neighboring tooth, right? I mean, they come for a better smile, a whiter smile, a more even smile. They want to look good. They want to feel good about themselves. And the language of, as I said, of the patients is aesthetics. So if we can tap into that at the beginning, then it doesn't matter which specialty you're in, whether it's implants, whether it's ortho, whether it's restorative, we're just working to the same goal, which is a beautiful smile at the end of the day. Obviously, all of us have different roles to play. And, another thing that just, that hit me back then, for me, it's great to be a great generalist, to be good at everything. And this really came from one of my professors over there, an absolutely unbelievable dentist from South Africa called Hyman Smuckler. He wrote a book about occlusion called Equilibration in the Natural and Restored Dentition. And he taught us occlusion. And I remember all the specialties had to be there, whether you were endo, whether you were ortho, perio, implants, restorative, prosto, everybody in the same room. And that first day that he came in and he said to all of us that, you know what, guys, it was an elderly gentleman. I don't believe in any of this. I don't believe in ortho. I don't believe in prosto. I just believe that every single one of you should be an amazing dentist, be able to do it all. And that really hit home for me that, it's great to be involved in just one particular specialty, but to be, really good at everything is something that I wanted to be able to do. But the end result of all of those specialties is, for the patient, a beautiful smile. So that's why I kind of focused on that. And, with digital smile design, this was just, music to my ears. It was things that I wanted to, that I was searching for, just a more effective way, a more predictable way of doing things. At the beginning of the day, at that time, we were doing it in PowerPoint and Keynote. And, it was really lucky to be involved at that point, seeing the partnership that DSD had with Invisalign and Exocad as well, and bringing smile design, digital smile design principles into the digital age. I was there in Amsterdam in about 2016, when Rune Fiske and Rasmus Nielsen, one of the lead designers of 3Shape, were designing the Smile Design app, and they'd come to Paulo Cana's course in Amsterdam to show them, and we had some comments about it there. So I've seen it develop. I've seen it brought into the digital world. And, the thing that's important for me is that we always recommend and we always preach that you start with the end in mind. All the time, the end result is a beautiful smile, natural, in harmony with the face of the patient. Facially guided aesthetic dentistry is gold standard dentistry. Most of my colleagues in the world, and I'm very proud and privileged to associate with a lot of amazing dentists, all of them practice facially guided aesthetic dentistry in some regards, whatever specialty they have. That they start with the end in mind, where we're going to end up. And then how can we then get there? What's the journey to get there? And of course, that may involve different specialties, interdisciplinary dentistry, and it just gets you to think, just not in one particular way. It gets you to think that, well, how can I move these teeth to be minimally invasive? How can I avoid picking up the handpiece by making sure that the teeth are in the right position? How can we bring implants into the equation? How can we bring the periodontist, or better yet, yourself, if you've trained in it, to do gum correction so that the end result is as good as it can be? So for me, it's all about excellence, but everything starts somewhere. And that somewhere is starting with the end in mind. And that's smile design and the principles of smile design. And then how to get there, that's the journey where you have to bring your team along.
Yeah, 100%, man. And you probably could reflect about how much it's changed, because smile design is something that a lot of us kind of just take for granted almost. This is how we do it. But you would remember, before these concepts of smile design and digital smile design and end in mind, it was kind of just pick up the drill and start drilling and then tell the lab to make some veneers or crowns. And that's probably a lot of the stuff that you guys are correcting from overseas, I imagine, with the boom of dental tourism as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that I started out was with your traditional SLR camera, right? So at that point, you had film in it, and you were taking photographs of the patient, and you weren't sure, because you couldn't get the film developed at that time until a few weeks later. Did you take the photos in the correct position? Was the patient blinking? How is it going to turn out? And we were really flying blindly, really, a lot of the time. You'd recommend to your lab technicians that you were working with. And again, I've been trained in the States. I really used quite a few labs, even here in the UK, but based in the States, like Gold Dust in California, or in Arizona, beg your pardon, Frontier in California, Micro Advanced Ceramics in California as well. And was working with great technicians, but then you had to specify in handwritten formats that what you would be wanting to achieve in the traditional wax up. And then having the wax up ready when you were doing the preps, you'd be able to then give the patient a great smile. And usually that was a technician really bailing us out. And many times, it's their vision that was the shape that they had created. But then just to make it more predictable, because a lot of the times then, because we didn't have digital technology, what would happen would be that you would do the prototypes or the temps, and then when you go to the final restorations to deliver them, there would always be some differences, right? I mean, you try and copy it, you send impressions of the prototypes, you would try and get, measurements, as much information as you could to the technicians, but still, because it was a human being at the end of the day doing the work, a human error can creep into it, and they would try and copy things exactly, but it would never be 100%. And I think I told Julian, one of your colleagues, this when I was talking to him, that it was soul destroying really to see a patient, or to hear a patient, and many times saying, after the restorations were put in, the final ones, that I preferred your prototypes, right? I preferred the shape of your prototypes. Yeah. And so it was that, so it was that predictability that I wanted to change. And digital, immediately I could see the benefits of doing this, that, we can copy paste Word documents. We should be able to copy paste shapes. And yes, we could do that very easily. But obviously there's certain principles along the time. It's not just about copying the motivational mock-up or the invasive design, but it's also delivering that, whether that's through milling technology or 3D printing technology. You still have to have the proper milling strategies. You still have to have the proper finishes. So it's not as simple as that, but it's much more easier for the technician, definitely.
I agree, man. And I think that's what digital has done more than ever. I don't want to say it's made dentistry easier, because it's still a intensive profession. But I have to say the reliability nowadays with digital tools is just mind-blowing. I mean, like you say, what you see is usually what you get. If you've designed it in this way and they're happy with the temps, you're going to mill it, and a milling machine and a printer will always get it the same pretty much, as long as you processed it. And what I reflect, Jameel, is, I'm sure you feel this pain as well, is that you get a wax up and you want to change something, or the wax up is just way off. And that used to be a drama to, beg the lab, can you please do the wax up again? I don't want to pay for another full wax up. And they used to charge you by tooth. And now with digital technology, it's simple, it's quick. You can change things on the fly. You can make teeth longer, even really complex things like midline shifts, if there was such a thing, like with All on X. If it was a traditional wax up, repositioning all the teeth was a huge drama. Whereas with digital, it's much easier. And I think that's really what's so incredible about where we find ourselves. Speaking of digital though, so I want to like kind of take the essence of everything you've learned and like squeeze it out. If you had someone that's fresh, let's say a new grad, he's pretty sharp, he's onto it, or even someone who just joins your practice as an associate, they don't know much about smile design. What would you say are the key principles these days? Like, what are the really pearls of wisdom these days from all your experience that people should be looking out for?
I don't really have to sort of imagine this, because my son now, being 31 years in dentistry, my son now is in final year of dental school. So
Congratulations,
it's the same
man.
things that So it's the same things that I'm telling him. And the first thing is to be, great at the basics of dentistry, and to learn the bread and butter of how you treat people, how you earn the trust of patients, how you put the patient as number one, sound ethics, sound principles. And you've got to pay your way in the world and do your due diligence and learn the classic ways of doing dentistry. But with respect to smile design, I think this is something that's becoming easier and easier. However, you're right. We have to know certain fundamental principles of smile design, because when the digital wax up comes back, you have to be able to know sometimes where you want to change things, why things look a little bit off, why things look a little bit fake, how to get them looking a little bit more natural. Do I increase the embrasures? Do I look at the line angles? These type of things. So I think the important thing about smile design is really to start with the face. The teeth don't just sit on a technician's desk, in the form of models. It's part of somebody, and the face tells us really, where the teeth should be. I know, and obviously it's a very subjective thing, but that's where being the architect of the smile or being a smile designer comes in. And you really have to have an eye that's developed and nuanced for this. And there are just so many things to take into consideration, but always start with the face. And then once you have the face in the center of the face, whether it's the facial midline, the dental midline, seeing if they're coincident, seeing if the patient has noticed this, because many times the facial and the dental midline's off, but the patient doesn't know about it, in which case, great. But if the patient does mention it at the beginning, then we have to try and do something about it, or at least address it. And then from there, looking at smile lines and the incisal edge position, the interdental width guide, the place of the gingiva, the tooth proportion grids. So there's a lot of things to consider, but really the biggest pearl that I could say is to start with the face. Don't just look at the teeth, look at the face. And the great thing is about most of the softwares today is that they start with the face. And again, respect to Christian Coachman and the guys there who really brought this to the forefront. I mean, facially guided dentistry is not something new. These were things that were talked about by John Coyce, that were talked about by Peter Dawson, Frank Spear. So these are things that are in the textbooks, but bringing it into the digital age and making it easier to see things. And you're right, what you see, you believe. A picture paints 1,000 words, right? So if we can see things easily, a variety of different things, like you mentioned, you were stuck with one type of wax up with a traditional wax up, or one type of smile design with a traditional wax up. But with digital technology, you can flip through different types of styles of teeth, just like you're flipping through a book, like pages of a book. If you're looking at Smile Cloud, for example, you just need to scroll, or through Ralph George's SmileFee app. You can go through different libraries of teeth, and instantaneously it's changing the shape of those as natural algorithms that we want to make teeth look beautiful and natural with. So a lot of the heartache is taken out. I think my son will find it easier with AI and being able to visualize these things when he starts his practice, hopefully at some point soon. But always remembering that sound principles are, and putting the patient first is the most important thing. And if you can get the trust of the patients, put the patients first, and work towards natural, beautiful, aesthetic, long-lasting smiles, then I'm sure he'll have a great career in dentistry as well.
Well, first things first, a big congrats, man. That must be a special moment for you
Thank
to
you.
have a son get into dentistry. I mean, I work with my father. A lot of people know on the podcast. So yeah, it's an amazing thing. He's going to be super lucky to have a mentor like you in his life. And I totally agree. I love how you started off with the patient trust. And I think that's also a key I'll just put out there, is just being able to be a good communicator. I think that's one thing that the digital tools help us. But, you know, we don't want to say be a salesman because that's kind of dirty and medical, but in essence, you have to gain people's trust and get buy-in to the things that you can offer for them to do. And I think that's one critical thing that digital helps us to do. And again, you do it ethically, you do it morally, you use all the tools, but people these days expect a much higher level of sophisticated dentistry, I would say, especially from the patient-dentist interaction. And then comes the fact that, and I put it out there for everyone, all patients now, just like how we interact with ChatGPT and basically put all our thoughts and opinions and everything into ChatGPT, patients are doing the same with our treatment plans now. And so that also adds a really interesting element that you really have to be, you know, on your game and making sure you're doing everything to the highest standard. The other thing that's curious is, you know, you mentioned with your son, it's going to be easier for him. I mean, I remember the days of using those templates. I wasn't quite using film. That's incredible. But using the PowerPoint templates to create a motivational mock-up. And they never looked that great. I mean, it was mind-blowing at the time. This would have been in 2017, 18. God, it's crazy how much time flies. But these days, if you just put a smile into ChatGPT and tell it, make me a smile design, 3-word prompt, it's mind-blowing what it gives you. Now, there's a whole different thing if you can actually achieve that. But the fact that we have these tools to even do the motivational stuff is crazy. Like, everyone should be using it if they're interested in getting into this type of work, given that they can actually execute and perform the work correctly and to the highest standard. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And I like what you said about patient trust, because AI will give us a lot of things. You know, it'll give us smile visualizations. It's going to be giving us, you know, treatment plans and suggestions for treatment and things like this. But one thing it won't do is it won't earn the patient's trust, right? We still have to do that. You know, the patient will still have to choose us based on something. And digital allows us to be able to, you know, bridge that gap with trust, because now it's not just you saying the words, but it's you demonstrating on the screen, right? So we always have a scan first philosophy, where we scan every single patient that comes in the door, regardless of you know what they're coming in for. Every exam they get a scan. And you know, the days of the dental mirror, especially one of our colleagues and co-educators on the Aesthetic Smile Design Excellence course, this is the way that he talks about it. The days of the dental mirror is over. You know, now it's scanning everything, because how easy it is to do the digital dental checkup and show exactly in the areas what the patient can't see. You can track, you know, how much wear there's been, how much recession there's been from the last visit to this visit. You know, it's just seeing is believing. So yes, you know, AI will do a lot, technology will do a lot, but it really a lot of this based on the human element. And you're right, selling is a dirty word, but you know what we really prefer to describe it is educating and motivating our patients. That's really what it is all about, because these are things that people need. You know, they want to have better oral health, they want to be healthier, they want to look good, they want to feel good, they want to live longer. These are all things natural in any human being. And as I said, the language that the patient really will talk to us in is the language of aesthetics. And if we can make it easy for them to see these things, visualize these things on visit one, then we're going to get to do more of the dentistry that we would love to do, you know, not cut treatment plans or half treatment plans. As Miguel Stanley says, no half smiles here. What we want to do is we want to treat patients fully to the best of our abilities, you know, for what they need to get done, right? And, you know, that doesn't mean just prepping the teeth to achieve some sort of smile design. It's about, you know, getting things healthy, stabilizing things, moving to the teeth to the proper positions, allowing our preps to be more minimally invasive or zero prep if possible. And these are all things that we teach in the course, that how can we be more minimally invasive and how can we leverage technology to be able to do this. So yeah, man, I agree with everything that you said.
And I also think, man, the thing about digital as well is, like, anyone who's not digital out there, and I've been beating this drum like you for years and years and years, you're going to be falling behind. Like, basically everyone needs a scanner tomorrow. Every practice needs a scanner. And you talk about trust. I still get patients, and I'm sure you do as well, that when I bring them into the office and I scan their teeth and I show them, they're mind blown. It's absolutely mind blowing to them. And we talk about trust and all of that, but it's not how, you know, you have a silver tongue and everything. And it does come into fact, but how well you communicate. But it's also the whole vibe of the practice. Technology, is an easy way to build trust with patients, because now in the age of AI, people are used to things like tech and being high tech, etc. And it just looks like you're cutting edge. Of course, as I mentioned, there's also the element that you need to be able to execute. So go do your education, do your CPD. As you can see, Dr. Jameel has done insane amounts of education to get to his level. But the other really curious thing is, the patient interaction. You mentioned, you scan every patient, and that's something that manufacturers have said to do for a while. But can you talk me through that? Like, a lot of people listening, a lot of dentists would love to just be a fly on the wall of practices like yours. Like, how do these guys actually do this? Because one thing is the dentistry, but how does the whole process work? So patient calls up your office and says, I saw your Instagram, which, side note again, social media is so important in this day and age. But anyway, I saw your Instagram, Jameel, and I love your work or whatever, and I want to come in for a smile consultation. Walk me through the process for people that are listening, like that. Hopefully they can be a bit inspired to make some changes or improve their own practices.
Yeah, oh yeah, of course. So, I think you're right. Things start where you have visibility, and that's going to be where patients are, whether that's Instagram or TikTok or other social media apps. But people contacting us in general contact us through a form which has a little template on it called SmileMate that allows them to send some photos, just some basic photos for the TCO, allows them to write a little bit of things, prompts them for questions about why they're seeking dental treatment, just so we have a little bit of a background about the patient before they come in. And then the TCOs will really call the patients and try and book them in for a consultation with one of the dentists. And that first consultation appointment is absolutely critical. The first consultation is where everything is made. And you're right, the practice has got to be nice and beautiful, and it's got to be inviting for the patient, of course. But that first visit is where everything can be made and lost. So we're at Aesthetic Smile Excellence and Dental Excellence Group in particular are all about empowering our support staff. So we have another course called Next Gen Dental Nurse, where we train the nurses of aesthetic dentistry, people who want to take their work to another level, to be doing the scanning, to be doing the designing of the smile, to be doing the 3D printing. And that first visit, when the patient comes in, is welcomed, we already know why they've come, we know their name, they're greeted by their name at the start. We have a file on them to begin with through the SmileMate form or the AI solution that we're having. And then coming in, they will get a risk assessment form that's talked through with them. They'll get some video where they'll answer some questions about themselves. And this is all done by the support staff, right? By the dental nurses. So they're the ones that are doing the scanning. They are the ones, if they qualify, taking the x-rays. They're the ones that are taking the photos that we take for every case. And then it's just a matter of, once that's ready, the dentist coming in, having been informed of basically what's happening already, having a look at the photos and the x-rays already, and talking the patient through what they've seen. So we want to make it as slick and as efficient as possible. And, most of the patients from that are really wowed, because they're really not given an experience like that anywhere or in their previous dental history, such a comprehensive examination, where we're looking in detail at the intraoral scans, the photos, the x-rays, the 3D scans. We will be introducing as well, now with biological dentistry coming in, patients will be asked to spit into the test tube. So we'll do some saliva testing as well. And that comprehensive first examination will just give us so much data and information from the patient that we can then start to formulate great interdisciplinary treatment plans based on a motivational mock-up or a smile test drive. So it's all about giving the patient an amazing experience. It's also about collecting the correct data. It's also about utilizing your support staff to make things slick, to give power to the dentist, and for the dentist to then to really be utilized for what they're good at, which is diagnosing, building rapport with the patients through that first consultation, and to be doing the dentistry, right? It's not to be involved in doing all the other things, because I think as a profession, dentists are guilty of trying to do too much. We want to do the marketing, we want to do the smile designing, we want to do the prepping of the teeth, we want to do the the 3D printing, and at some
Payroll.
point we have to yeah, so at some point we have to realize that we're most effective and better utilized when we're actually in the chair seeing the patients and treating the patients. And if we can do that, and we can do it in an efficient way, which is what we teach in this course, how can we become more efficient? How can we, by utilizing technology with workflows that are really novel, and this is something that we haven't talked about yet, but it's one thing having an intraoral scanner and knowing how to use the intraoral scanner. Okay, I can press this button and then scan. But what about utilizing all the functions of digital dentistry to build a workflow that has been pre-planned and guided right from the beginning, right? So it's like getting, for example, a Lego box. You get a Lego box, you've got instructions in there, and if you put the Lego pieces together and follow the instructions, you're going to end up with a particular shape. You're going to end up with a car. You're going to end up with a castle, whatever it is. But you follow the instructions step by step. And it's a similar case with utilizing digital technology, that if we can plan the ortho beforehand, we can plan the ortho restorative workflows, we can plan the amount of prep if we're going to need it, or is it going to be minimally invasive? Lots of information going there at the beginning. Then by the time it comes then for execution, then things are already easier, and we know the order that things have to be done in. Sequencing has been thought about already, and where we can save time, we're saving time to make things more efficient. And that's just going to benefit the patient, obviously, because there's less time in the chair. It means that we can, through these novel workflows and guided digital workflows, like, for example, First Fit, where we're being able to prep and fit with a preppable guide over the teeth that makes our prepping very, very efficient and very, very easy, right? So it saves us a lot of time. If you come to, and this is, as I said, this is not new technology. This has been around since 2014, 2015. I did my first course in this in 2017 in Spain, in Madrid. And God knows how many hundreds and thousands of patients have been treated across the world using this technique, but not a lot of people know about it. And it's like, how can we utilize these hidden gems just to make everything more efficient for the patient and efficient for the dentist as well? Freeing up our time. If we can have the patient in the chair for less time, means we can charge them less, but still make the same amount of money that we did before, right? So it's a win-win situation for everybody. And this is really what digital, I think, is doing for us right now. It's about utilizing the scanner correctly. It's utilizing the technology correctly. It's not trying to do old dentistry with new equipment, but it's really trying to reinvent the way that dentistry is being done. And that's utilizing amazing workflows, amazing new technologies, great new materials, just trying to keep these things in the forefront, that we're really here to make our patients' lives easier and better. And the more we can encourage our patients to seek out good, ethical dentistry and not go abroad, like you mentioned right at the beginning, we have an epidemic here where we have young people going abroad for dental treatment. And I've got some great friends in all these countries, right? And are superb dentists. So there's good and bad dentists in every country, of course. But there is a vast epidemic of people going abroad, and young people coming into my office on a weekly basis that's saying, does this treatment plan look okay to you? And it's like 26 zirconia crowns on an otherwise healthy mouth, right? So the patients don't know. They have very limited information about these things. There's a lot of overtreatment going on around the world. And how can we encourage them to stay in the country to get ethical dentistry done? It's by giving efficient workflows, utilizing 3D printing technology, zero prep if we can, trying to reduce the amount of time that they're getting the dentistry in, but with sound planning beforehand. And in this way, we're seeing a massive U-turn of people that are not going abroad and are wanting to stay in the UK here and get the treatment done with us. And that's why the clinics are growing so quickly.
Good on you, man. And I absolutely love it. And I think part of that is the social media of these young people showing their pointy teeth. And so everyone's freaked out with these preps. And, again, so much there to unpack, but it comes down to trust. I mean, this is why you do the technology. This is why you do the things that you do, in my opinion. I do similar in my practice, and this whole customer journey, patient journey, client journey, whatever you want to call it, this whole workflow of showing them and doing all these diagnostics and doing all these tools and giving them an experience that they've never had anywhere else is how you're going to gain their trust as a first step. And then you have to really just be able to, again, complete the story as the clinician. One interesting thing is how passionate you are, man. Honestly, I absolutely love it. And, you know, me and you have worked tirelessly with the team, hundreds and hundreds of hours on this aesthetic smile design excellence course. And for those of you out there, you can see how passionate and intelligent and onto it this guy is. So highly recommend you guys check it out. It's live and we're super excited. But moving away from that for a second, it's a question that I get asked all the time. What scan is your favorite? I'm kind of sick of answering it for the past 10 years, thousands of times. What are you guys running? I'm sure people are curious. What kind of technology are you guys running in your practice? Obviously printers, I assume Sprint Ray, because they've been kind of the restorative domain for so long, and also a kind sponsor of this podcast, so thanks to them. But what scanners are you guys running? What's the design? I assume Exocad, but let us know kind of what's the tech stack in there.
So I think today, today it doesn't really matter which scanner you use, because really they all work, in my opinion. Some of them go a little bit quicker than others, fair enough, and some of them are a bit more easier to do with different specialties. But I'm a bit of a person that loves technology, and I have this been since I was a young adult back in the day. And, so we have 3Shape, we also have iTero, and we also have Zirconia in our clinic. So I wouldn't recommend that people just go into every sort of like scanner, but I just love the technology. So I wanted to use something that all the reps were coming through and things that were interesting to me about how to be able to use these things. But if I had a favorite, I love my 3Shape scanner. I think it's a great all-rounder. It has been with me since the beginning. That's the first scanner I got. With respect to 3D printing, well, I've had budget 3D printers. I've had introductory dental printers. So I've had things like, for example, the Anycubic Photon, which was amazing for the little desktop printer for models that I used for a number of years. I had Foam Labs, the original one, and Foam Labs 2. But right now, you're right, it's a Sprint Ray. We have a partnership with them as well, and they're just producing fabulous products. The Midas is an incredible piece of kit that's going to change the game, especially with its pressable technology. So yes, I do a lot of, in my clinic, I used to do a lot of implants and restorative dentistry. I now mostly focus on restorative dentistry. So I do a lot of 3D printed veneers. I do a lot of zirconia. That's a big favorite of mine right now. Zirconia veneers, zirconia on implants. And that just came about because we do a lot of interdisciplinary work. And I just wanted to have, one restoration type, material type on all of my restorations, because usually it was mixed implant, bridges, crowns, and veneers in one particular case. And it was difficult to mix and match, right? So if you can have one material that works for everything, this is really the way forward. So we do a lot of zirconia. But yes, with respect to the question that you had, yeah, I've got a soft spot for 3Shape.
They're going to love that. I mean, I do too. I love 3Shape. I do think they're getting a lot of heat now in the market because of the Chinese competitors. And like you say, man, all scanners work. And so sadly, the spending 30, 40K on a scanner, I think the market has shifted from that. I will put a little asterisk on that. All scanners work, guys. But if you're in countries with high spending power, let's call them, or first world countries or developed countries, or whatever the label is, I wouldn't go for the cheapest on the market, especially if you're doing high-end dentistry, implants, all on X. Look, I've used every single scanner from 1,000 to 20 to 30,000, 40,000. The cheapest ones on the block usually struggle a little more with the edentulous scanning, horizontal scan bodies. They have stitching errors. The software isn't so flash. So if you're doing high-end work, you probably just want to go for the mainstream ones. And like Dr. Jameel said, they all work. Medit, Shining, Trios, just find the one that you like. One has good support and you'll be just fine. I'm curious with Zirconia veneers, that will be something really interesting to people, but we're running out of time and they'll have to join the course, of course, because you go into materials. But what's your favorite Zirconia? I don't know if that's a fair question, but there's a lot out there.
No, it's a good question. I got into Zirconia around about 2017 when Prime aesthetic from Ivoclar was launched. So I've used quite a few different types of zirconia, but it's really the combination of the 3Y, the 4Y, and the 5Y types of zirconia that make an aesthetic block, and in some cases we want to have things that are a little bit more stronger, like a 3Y type of zirconia. But the ones that are a combination of, all of them, but more translucent towards the edge, a little bit more 3 wide towards the middle of the tooth, just gives a great gradient, right? So I think it's horses for courses. But if I had if I had a favorite, because I do a lot of it and we use a lot of different zirconias, it is the Ivoclar one, Prime Aesthetic, and they brought out a new one which is called Zirconia. So they're always trying to update it. They're always trying to improve things. And yeah, that's what I would recommend, and what I recommend on the course as well.
Yeah, amazing, man. And they're a killer company. Everyone knows about Ivoclar, absolute killer material company. And that's actually what we use too. So it's fascinating how all around the world we kind of all converging into the same things. And one other thing that you mentioned is workflows. And that's a real key thing for people to understand, guys, is that digital dentistry is not new anymore. It's kind of mainstream. There's so many tools out there: scanners, printers, AI software, ChatGPT, milling machines, Exocad, AI CAD. And I think the real key thing that's missing is that we know the tools that exist out there, but it's workflows. I mean, that's what matters for your practice. If you just pick up a scanner and just scan and send, it doesn't really matter if you're just sending it to your lab. But if you're really considering into moving this in-house and doing some really high-end and customized patient care, it's all about workflows. And that's, Dr. Jameel put it perfectly. That's really the key. How do you actually put all these tools together into a succinct, efficient workflow? Because that's what's important day to day in a busy practice. The other thing, Jameel, is printing. I had a great chat with Dr. Brian Harris. I don't know if you know him. He's an amazing clinician also.
Yes.
And he had a really interesting thought about 3D printing. And he said, look, it's going to be never like e.max and Zirconia, so we just need to forget about that. But it's a perfectly suitable and viable restorative material. And how he's positioning it is kind of like a middle ground material. As long as you communicate the pros and cons of each material, and you communicate, this is the potential drawbacks of resins, he positioned it as a really nice material to have as like a middle cost option for those who can't afford zirconia veneers and e.max and all of that. What's your vibe? You guys have been doing a lot of high-end stuff with Sprint Ray, a lot of high-end stuff with 3D printed resins. Of course, we all use them for trial smiles. That's kind of given. And we all use them for the motivational, clip it in and show the patient. But a lot of things that are on people's mind is, are these things lasting? Are they a permanent restoration? I'm sure you get sick and tired of getting asked that as well. Is it a permanent restoration? Is it a permanent restoration? What's your vibe on this 3D printing space?
So I agree with Dr. Harris that it's basically a middle ground. It's like your hybrid material. And it's not something that will be right now as good as e.max or Zirconia. And it's something that I think is better than just plain composite and composite bonding, right? So it sits as its own category. And if we can view it as that, then you're right. There's going to be a massive subset of the population that will go for this particular type of material after you talk about the pros and the cons with it. And, one thing to say is that the materials are getting better, right? But because it's so fastly developing, it's really difficult to have studies that show longevity and show wear resistance and show staining susceptibility, because a new material is coming out the next year, and then those other studies then are quite moot. So I think you still have to be careful. You still have to look for the good clinicians, the ethical clinicians that are doing it. Tell the patients with the pros and the cons of this particular material. Have good consents about using it. But for sure, in our 3D sprint course, we teach quadrant 3D printing for inlays, onlays, crowns. And, our clinicians use it routinely for these restorations as a good in-between type of material. However, there are patients, who want the longest lasting and who want the best. And for that, we will recommend milling technology and e.max and Zirconia for that as well. But, if longevity is just what you're after, I remember at the beginning of my career, the early part of my career, I was seeing lots of porcelain fused to metal crowns. And they were in place. The people, I don't know if you saw this, but people used to come in to see me here in Scotland, in Glasgow, and even in the US, and they would have these restorations in the mouth for 25, 30, 35 years, right? So even PFMs would last a long, long period of time. And I don't think longevity is all of the story. You definitely have to try and focus on what's important for the patient, what the budget of the patient is, because this is the real world. Patients have a variety of budgets. We want to be able to cater for everybody, and we should be positioning this material as a great in-between way. And I think people respect that when you give them the option, and loads of people are willing to give it a try and to work with it. And definitely in our hands, from the cases that we've done, we've seen some really great results.
I love that point about PFM, by the way. I mean, how many people, especially our elderly patients, have amalgam fillings, and they lasted 60 years in some patients.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we don't do them anymore. But
Sure.
is it hard for you though, Jameel? Is it because you come from such a rich education background? Like you did premium education, and as you said, literature based, research based. Everything was backed up by science. Is it hard for you in this kind of digital world? Because I imagine it is for a lot of clinicians. I mean, we all got taught in university, what's it called? Research back practice or something like that. Is it hard for you in this world now with 3D printables to accept that these materials are constantly changing every year? We never have up-to-date literature, because as soon as literature comes out, it's already mute because it's a year old. And what's kind of your advice for people? Of course, I think you said it perfectly about, make sure you align with the right clinicians. There's a lot of partnerships and sponsorships and money to be made in this industry. So I think it's key to learn from clinicians that, you respect and are doing it, and they can show that this actually works. But what's your advice? Because it's pretty hard to navigate all of this for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think, we have to just try and look at what they're closest to, right? So we may not have lots of information about 3D printed materials, but we do have some, right? So we can infer from there that, yes, they've been successful over a period of time, and they're getting better, and longevity is improving, and wear resistance is improving. So yes, we can kind of infer things. But then we also have things like hybrid materials that have been around for a long period of time, or longer period of time, and they function a lot like that. So we can infer from that as well. So I guess it comes down to how much of a risk taker you are, how risk averse you are. And I think that from my point of view, I think we're doing our patients a disservice if we're just discounting that it's a new material. We don't have any, 20-year research on it. But, with proper consents, with proper pros and cons, and as I said, the proper way to do it is look at clinicians that are giving good sound advice. Like, for example, Professor Marcus Blatz from UPenn is giving sage advice about these along a lot of different subjects. But, one of the things is 3D printed materials. And, take a dip in and see how it, you dip your toe in and see how it goes. And as I said, from anecdotal evidence and cases that we've done, they seem to be standing the test of time so far, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. And, we're trying to do more research on it. Colleagues of mine in different parts of the world, like Nelson Silva in Brazil, they're trying to do a lot of research into the university there in 3D printed materials. So, yeah, we're getting information. And I think, as you said, seeing is believing. You really have to try it, see how it goes. But yeah, coming from an evidence-based background, I can understand what you say, what you're saying. I still say that in a patient that has a lot of wear, that wants, good long-term dentistry, then I would still do e.max, zirconia, and mill my restorations. But for fillings, for 3D printed veneers that can last longer than composite bonding, that is much better to be able to be clean, looks much better, gives our patients what they want without them having to go away for destructive dentistry in different countries of the world that maybe are doing a little bit of overtreatment in some places. Then this is a great material to try and use. And as I said, it is working. And the companies that are producing these materials, they are trying to do some good research. They're trying to give it to external sources as well to get their input about it. And, we wait with bated breath about what are the long-term results with it. But I have a feeling right now that it's going to stand favorably if it's done correctly and you follow the proper workflows.
I totally agree, man. It's clear it's not going away anywhere, especially with this rise of cartridge printing. That's the next kind of frontier. And I think, it's another tool in your toolbox. And the market is also learning. We're all learning together. The manufacturers, the dentists, everyone. And I can remember when the printed crowns first came out, it was all about replacing all crowns. And now we've kind of pulled it back. And even thankfully, the marketing and the messaging has also come back quite a bit from a lot of companies. And like you say, for printed veneers, crowns for people that could not otherwise afford them, inlays, onlays, they're absolutely perfect. And even from the companies, a lot of them, I had a good call with Sprint Ray this morning about their new restoratives coming out. Even they, opposing zirconia crowns, or in very rare cases, they say, look, it's probably not the go-to choice, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have a place in modern dentistry. Dr. Jameel, I really appreciate your time. Is there any last words for the audience? I'm sure people really enjoyed this. I remember being a young clinician, and I would have loved to be able to just sit in a room with people that I wanted to be like and just learn from them. So again, thanks for your time. Is there any last words?
No, just thank you for having us with your program, Ahmed. Your guys are doing a great job. You're doing a fantastic job. And, we're thrilled to work with forward-thinking, like-minded people that are working for the betterment of dentistry. It's one thing to be working for the betterment of ourselves and earning more and doing these type of things, but to do things to be able to raise the level of dentistry all over the world. Doesn't matter where you are, what color your skin is, which country you live in. Great dentistry is something that everybody should have access to. Digital levels the playing field a little bit. But those workflows are super important, and we're super happy to share them in the course that we've made with you.
I appreciate it, my friend. I appreciate the kind words, and the feelings are mutual. You guys are doing amazing stuff. Once again, for those of you listening, check out our Aesthetic Smile Design Excellence course. We did it with the Avant Garde team. Jameel Gardee is a educator. You can see how knowledgeable this guy is. This was a mammoth task for both of our teams. We've been working hundreds of hours. We're super happy with finally getting it ready, because it's over 20 hours of probably the best education online on smile design. And these guys do a lot of this education live and all around the world, and we're lucky to partner with them. So thank you so much, Dr. Jameel. And for everyone listening, thank you so much for supporting our podcast. Like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, etc. This has been another episode of the Digital Dentistry Decoded podcast. See you next time.